Hello, you're watching the Microsoft Excel step-by-step VLOOKUP tutorial. The video will show you how to use the VLOOKUP command in Microsoft Excel 2007. Now this also works if you're using Excel 2003 or 2010, but for the purposes of this presentation I have 2007 loaded. The VLOOKUP command itself is used to pull a certain cell or cells of data out of a long list of information. So it's useful for spreadsheets with part numbers, pricing, suppliers, names, anything you can think of really where you'd want to pull a certain bit of information out of a long list of data. In this tutorial I'll break it out into 3 steps. The first is we'll just create a simple VLOOKUP command. It'll just give us a certain price for a certain part. The second one is we'll do the second part of the tutorial will give you multiple part numbers, and it'll pull multiple prices for multiple part numbers. And then finally I have just a quick example on how it can be used in a real world scenario. So you'll see on the left here that I have a small set of data. It's not too big, it's only 12 lines or so. And what this is, I have supplier, part number, and price. So we have 12 different part numbers, a few different suppliers, a bunch of different pricing, and what we'll do with VLOOKUP is that I want to look up what's the price of one of these part numbers. So that's really the beauty of the tool of VLOOKUP, is looking up what's the price, or what's the, how does one column correspond with another column, and I'll show you here. So if in here we enter 36625, which is just this part number, that will be the price that we're looking for. So we want to know what the price is for this. Obviously we know that it's $57, but we want to use VLOOKUP to be able to determine that. So the first thing we do, VLOOKUP is broken up into 4 pieces. If you type in the VLOOKUP and then open parentheses, the first thing it asks you for is lookup value. And so the lookup value is, out of your data, what do you want to find? So we want to find 36625. So I just click that and hit my comma. The second piece that it asks for is called table array. And here it wants you to select all of your data that you want to look for that part number in. So I'll just select columns B and C, do a little drag, and then I'll hit my comma. The third piece is the column index number. So this gets a little tricky, but it's not too bad. Essentially what it's asking for is, I just selected columns B and C. Column B in this case would be the first column, column C would be the second column. And so since I'm looking for the price, I'm going to put 2 because 2 corresponds with the price column since it's the second column that I selected. So we'll put 2 here, and we'll hit our comma. And then it asks you for something called range lookup, and it gives you the option between true and false. I almost always put false here because I want to get an exact match. If you put true, you can kind of start to get some unusual information out of this, so let's just put false. And then we'll close our parentheses, and when we hit enter, we should have $57. Alright, so you can see that what this is doing is it's asking, okay, here's the part number we're looking for, here's the big group of data, which price corresponds with this part number, and you'll see that $57 corresponds with. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a bunch of different part numbers just at random here, start to put them in the column on the right. So what I want to look for is, instead of just looking for one part number, I'll delete this. Instead of just looking for one, let's look for a lot of these, but just a certain set out of that right column from the left column. So if we do our VLOOKUP again, and instead of just looking up the 36625, let's highlight this whole mess, okay? Then we'll hit enter, and again, table array, we want to look here in columns B and C. We'll hit our comma. We're looking at the second column since we're looking for the price, so we'll do that. And then the range lookup, again, we'll do false. So we have 57 here. Now before we drag it down, we're going to anchor these 2. So if you click up here in the formula bar, if you click E2, or in this case it's E2, but if you click that first little unit and hit F4, and that second little unit and hit F4, and hit enter, that'll allow us to drag, and it'll give us the right pricing. So you'll see this part number matches, this part number matches, and we can keep going down the list and everything matches. So it's actually a pretty powerful tool. The third example I'll use is in a real world situation, and I've made this list of, it's about 500 or so for 88 part numbers with just pretend part numbers, pretend suppliers, pretend prices, but they're all different. You can I mean, I think you can understand the value in being able to say, okay, I want this, 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 and this, and the price numbers for those. So let's try that. So what we'll do is Vlookup, and we want to look up these items. Let's try that again. So we want to look up those items. We'll hit a comma. We'll select B and C again. Another comma. Again, since we're looking for the price, we'll put column 2. And then another comma, and we'll do false. We hit enter. Let's just make sure our first one's right. And you can tell that it actually takes a couple seconds because Excel has to calculate kind of what you're looking for. So you'll see that CBMA, number sign 202, those part numbers match. So before we start dragging, again, let's anchor this stuff. At the top in the formula bar, if you just click in there and hit F4, it automatically anchors it. And then we'll hit enter, and then we'll just drag. And so instead of using the find function to look for different parts or anything like that, we've been able to very quickly look at the price. We've been able to very quickly look at a list of pricing that's only 12 or 13 items long out of a list of 500, and instead of taking us 5 or 10 minutes, it took us 30 seconds. I encourage you to try it on your own. As a kind of final tip, one fun thing is, let's say you don't want to have all these lines. Let's delete these. If you just want to look it up this way, you can just copy from here, and it'll change the price. See how it's changing the price there? So, I mean, you can type it in as well, HUZ873, and it'll change the price. So this is kind of a very simplistic way of kind of programming your own catalog so that you're able to find this stuff. So thanks for